Welcome to this video. We'll be building a simple pricing calculator. So without wasting much of our time, let's get started. Right here on my screen, I have created an index.html file and also a style.css file, right? And I've run it on the browser in such a way that anything I type here and save, you're definitely going to see the results right here. So now that being said, let's get started. So I'll just minimize this and I'll start with my HTML file. So I'll create my HTML file. I will call this pricing calculator. Then I'll save it. So once I have this like this, of course, it's run here, so it will be easy for us to actually see these particular details because I right clicked it and opened it with like a live server, so it will be easy for us to actually see, so that whenever we make any changes like this, it will just be appearing right there. So now that we have it like that, our view is here, our code base is here, so let's start building this thing. So the first part of this particular video is to design the HTML part of the whole thing, right? So the first thing I'm going to do right now is to link the CSS. So I'm going to go ahead and link the CSS like this. I'll create a link tag. Come on, let me type this. I'll create a link tag in CSS, and I have my link tag this way. I have my href. I will go down CSS. I have my rel, and I will input my style sheet there. So I will say style sheet. Alright, so once I have this, my CSS is being linked, so I can go ahead and start styling my body. So the first thing I want to do for my body is to give it a background. So I'm going to give it a background color of hash EAF6FC. So I'll save that there. And the next thing I want to do, I want to ensure that the margin, of course, is like 0px to avoid any margin around it, right? So once I have that done, so the next thing I actually want to do right now is to go ahead and start our wrapper. So I'll create a class here. I'll call it wrapper, and I'm going to give it a position of absolute. The width is going to be 100%, but the max width, in this case, we give it a max width of, let's say, like 520px thereabouts, so that's fine. Then we are also going to give it a background, so let's give it a background, and the background is going to be hash 011c33. So let's save that. Then we are going to give it the padding, and the padding, of course, is going to be about 30px, and we are also going to give it a border radius. So I'm going to say border radius. I'm going to give border radius of 12px, and we are going to give it top and left. So we're going to say top, let it be 50%, and left, let it also be 50%. And we're going to give it a transform property. So I'm going to say transform, translate, and this is going to be minus 50%, so that it would allow us to put this exactly at the middle of the whole thing. So once we have this going, let's go ahead and call our HTML here. So this is going to be div. Let's create that. So it's going to be our div. Our class is called wrapper. So basically, this is what we've created. So the next thing we're going to do, let's ensure that we have our color here and let it be white. So that's we see it really fine. So the next thing we want to do now is to go ahead and create our headings, right? So for our heading, I'm going to create a div with a class called title. I'm going to have my h1 there. And my h1, I'm going to say pricing calculator. Alright, I'm going to save that. So if this is my h1, and I'm going to have another paragraph tag here, and this one I'm going to say something like enter I'll say enter a number below, enter a number below. I'm going to save that too. Under my pricing, I'm going to have my input tag, and I'll just say type, let the type be number. I'll give it an ID. I'll say let the ID be our value. So let's just say value. So basically, this is what this is where the user will be typing this from. So the ID will help us to get that to JavaScript, right? So let's go ahead and just create a simple style with what we've done so far. So with this now, we could just go ahead and just make our font weight for the entire document be bold. So that is good, and our font size could actually be 14px. So we could do it like this, or better still, we could just say let all our paragraph font size be 14px instead. Alright, so something like this works too as well, right? So the next thing we want to do, I want to also say text transform uppercase for all of our paragraph text, so which is still fine. So we'll go ahead and give this particular paragraph a color, and this is the color that we're going to give it. So we're going to give it this particular color. So let's say color, let's give it this color. So this is going to be the color of our paragraph. So once we have that, the next thing we want to do now, we want to style our input, right? So we'll just call tag input tag. I will give it a width of 100%, a height of 60px. That's fair enough. I'm going to give it a border of 0px. I'm also going to give it a background, and the background I'm going to give it is going to be 09223A. So that's nice background there. I'm going to give it a border radius of like 5px, and I'm going to give it a color of okay, but let's see if the color is white already. So you could see that the color is black. So let's give it a color. Let's give it triple F as white color. So we have that there. So we're going to give it padding, and our padding is going to be like 20px. So let's give it 20px padding. So to correct that, I'm going to give it box sizing, border box. To correct that, so it will correct the excess padding there. So we're going to give it a font size of 32px, just to make it a little bit bigger, and we're going to say our font weight, let it be bold too as well. So we have stuff that is actually that bold. Okay, now so we have our input. So the next thing we want to just remove this stuff from focus, right? So I'm going to have input focus, and I'm going to say outline, let the outline be 0px. So with that now on focus, that particular line that is around it is actually gone. Now that we have that, the next thing we actually want to do is to display our calculator the way it's going to appear, right? So before we call it in our HTML, let's just create something. So this is where everything is going to be appearing. So we say calculator wrapper. So let's just type calculator wrapper here, and we're going to say let the display be flex, and we're going to give it a justify content of space between. So this will allow it to go edge to edge basically. So we are also going to say let's give it a margin top of 20px. So margin top of 20px. So this will also allow us to create like a very good margin top of 20px, right? So that's nice. So the next thing we want to do right now is to see how everything actually flies. So let's go back to our document here, our HTML here, and basically create that particular calculator wrapper, right? So we're going to say div class calculator wrapper. So basically we have a wrapper there. So because it is flex, we're going to have a div, but let us give it a div like this, and in our div, let's give it a class. We've not created this class, but we'll create it shortly. Let's call it set. So this is where all our settlement fees will actually be appearing. So let's create a paragraph tag here, and let's call this one, let's say we will settle you this. So basically, this is where our settlement comes in. So let's go to another paragraph too as well. So let's just call this one class AMT as amount. Let's put like 0 in there, right? So we could also give this an ID. So the reason why we're giving it an ID, this is where we are going to be updating our DOM, right? So I'm going to say settle here. So I'm going to save it. So this is where we'll be updating our DOM basically. So I'm going to copy all of this line, and I'm going to place it here again. So if I place it here, this other one will move to the edge. So instead of we settle you here, so our fees, so this is going to be our fees for this particular pricing calculator. So our fees, we're going to say our fees, I'm going to put 1.5%, right? So this is a pricing calculator for a fintech firm that want to show their user how much they will charge per transaction. So the whichever charge is going to be like 1.5% of that particular charges, right? So once we have that there, everything seems nice. So once we have this and set, so let's change this to fees because it's going to be something else that we'll be having there. So let us do a quick one here. Let's also add fees as a class here, so that when we go back to our CSS, we'll be able to style that particular thing. So let's come back here now. So we just say let our settle price right now be this. So I'll do this like this, and I'll say okay, let's have a color of white, of course. F, so this will give us like white color basically. But because of we have all our paragraphs set up, so let's take a look at it again. So we want this particular class of set of amount to actually be white. So let's use that now. So if we put this here, so that particular amount class is going to be white. So since it's white, so we're going to say let's give it a font size. So that our font size will be 32px, and font width be bold. So we're going to have like something this really bold, right? So the next thing we want to do now is to, in a way, remove all the margin in this particular class right now, this particular p tag. So I'm going to say set2/p, so that we can actually style all set2/p tag in a way. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to say something like set2p. So this will allow us to target a particular p tag. So let's say margin 0px, so to just help us to squash it in there, right? So the next thing we could do now, so I guess that's all. So the next thing that we just need to do right now, I don't really like the font, so I'm going to change the font of this particular document. I'm going to change it to Montserrat. And if you want to change your fonts, just go to Google Fonts, or let's say fonts, no, not font.google.com, I believe. Right, so this should take us to Google Fonts. Right, so you go to Google Fonts, you should be able to pick up like a Montserrat font if you want to change your font. So I want to change my font, so I've picked that up already even before going to, let's see, probably I didn't type let us type Google Fonts, right? So I didn't type it to Google Fonts. So that should be loading. I've already picked mine anyways, so I will just come in here and I'll paste it here. So this should change, this should bring Montserrat to me. So all I just need to do is here right now under body, I can say fonts family Montserrat. So you see my whole font will change. And Google Font is coming up. You can click here. Okay, I didn't spell it, I didn't add the S after the font initially. So you can use that and get your Montserrat font, right? And just pick that line that I picked. Alright, so once we are here now, we are basically done. The next thing I want to do now is to write the JavaScript in such a way that once someone types something here, by using DOM manipulation, this whole value will be calculated and to be updated. So the first thing I'm going to do is to actually type my function, type this input to a particular function. And the event that we want to actually capture in our input, there's our input here, is called an event called onKeyUp. So this is the event I'm going to use. I'm going to use an onKeyUp. So with an onKeyUp right now, I'll be able to get a particular function, right? So I'm going to say, I'm just going to call this one pricing, right? So the function could be any name, right? So just call it pricing and put in your function parentheses like this. So we have that there. So we can go ahead now and create our JavaScript. So this is the first JavaScript now. So I'll go ahead. So the first thing I want to do, once I have my function created, is of course create my JavaScript function, right? So I'll come here, I will say function, so I have that. So that's my function pricing there, and I will just do this. So I can now start creating my function. Remember, this will fire up based on KeyUp event. So this KeyUp here is one firing it up. So onKeyUp simply means that once you press something here, as you're leaving it, it's actually firing up that particular function. So which is really, really good. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to say let my value be equal to documents.getElement by ID, and the ID that we gave this is value, so I'm going to copy that there, value. So I'm going to say .value. .value now will help me get whatsoever thing the user is typing inside that particular input. So once I have that there, so the next thing I want to do now is to basically calculate it. But before I calculate it, let's also get other document.id. So I'm just going to duplicate this 3 times, and this is going to be for my settlement. So I'm just going to say settle here, and this is going to be for my charge. So I'm just going to say charge here. So I'm going to say settle EL. So that is settle elements and charge element. So what we did here is that we're giving an settle, ID settle, and for charge, the ID is fees, right? So let's do that. So I'll just paste it here, and I'm going to say fees. So I have my ID charge and my ID fees. So the next thing, of course, that we'll do now is to go ahead and actually do the calculation after getting all of this stuff. So let me just give a space. Now, so let me just say, now, to calculate percent, calculate percent. So now here now I want to calculate the charge and as well as the settlement, right? So I will say let's charge equal to, right? So charge is going to be, this is 8, so now it's going to be, to get the percent, I'm going to say 1.5. So 1.5 is the percentage that this particular fintech is actually charging 1.5% of whatsoever amount you get from that particular platform. So go to 1.5 divided by 100, then multiply by the value. So the value in this case now is this value that the user is actually imputing in. So once we have that, then how can we have our settlement? We'll say let settlements be equal to, this particular value now, right? So the value that we've gotten before minus our charge. So with this now, we'll have our charge and have our settlement. So the next line is to update the DOM, right? So I'm going to say update DOM. So for us to update DOM, we'll just speak in the settle element that we initially created and say dot inner HTML, inner HTML is going to be equal to settlement. So this is equal to, yes, settlement. Okay, that is equal to settlement. Actually, I'm correct. Settlement, right? So similar thing to also will happen here. So let me just paste this here, and this will be for charge. So I'm going to say charge, and I'm going to have my charge element here as well. So this is what I'm going to have. So with this now, let's try it out. So with this now, if I type 2000 here, so let's see what's happening. Okay, I had a simple error here. I'm not supposed to add dot value here actually, so I'm just going to take this off. So there shouldn't be dot value there. It's because I duplicated it, so I forgot to remove it. So ensure you do that too as well. Then if we type 2000 now here, you could see everything is actually working fine. So another trick again is that we want to output our document, we could ensure that it is outputting as a number, right? So with that, we could use the local string JavaScript function to actually do that. So I'll just put dot to local string, right? So the to local string function would allow it to look like a number. For example, when you type 2000 here, you could see the comma is actually coming in, and that is because of the to local string, right? And that is it, guys. You built your simple pricing calculator, right? So this is really good. So you can use this now to learn how DOM manipulation work, how we track this particular event of typing using on KeyUp, and how we are able to update this particular DOM by selecting it and using inner HTML to update this particular DOM to have our pricing working just the way that we want it. So this is the amount. So once this particular pricing calculator, once we, as a fintech firm, you receive 2000 from your clients, right, or from your customer, so you will get 19,700 paid to you, while 1.5% of that particular charge will be given to the fintech organization. So that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you have any questions.